Right. Screen.
Yep. I'm about to get way more worked up about the internal structure of non-profit organizations than any of you will ever be. I grew up in BC, so I'm a Canucks fan. I'm a supporter. When they win, I celebrate. When they lose, I pretend I don't care. I spend some money on swag and tickets if I can ever get to a game on the West Coast. However, I don't expect them to consult me on their coaching staff or who their farm team should be. On the other hand, I'm a member of a number of different organizations, and several of them speak on issues that I care about. In high school, I was simultaneously a member of the Monarchist League of Canada and the World Federalists of Canada. But recently, organizations that have been talking in the public sphere seem to be avoiding having actual members, preferring instead to have people sign up as donors or subscribers or supporters or basically just likes on Facebook, none of which have the rights, privileges, or responsibilities of membership. Take an egregious example. The Canadian Taxpayers Federation has 6 members. This is because, of course, no one who actually supports the Canadian Taxpayers Federation other than the people on their board is a member. They're a supporter or a donor or any of these other things that you can be. You're not a member. You don't have the right to access the financial reports, any of that sort of stuff. I think organizations that speak with our voices should have the kind of togetherness that comes from real, traditional membership card membership and not just the type of relationship you have with a pro sports team. I believe there are a number of benefits to society and a number to the organizations themselves because of this. The first are associated with basic democratic skills, and as the West Van City Council here demonstrates, who clearly all voted on something that they didn't even know what they were voting about, we have a bit of a problem with this in some aspects of our society. First is debate. Our abilities to discuss, and this is the Hart House Debates Room at the University of Toronto, which is where I learned to debate, and what I'm doing here now doesn't, good, someone else. My current failings are not their fault. Depends on us being able to agree that we can work together, rather than having the leadership saying, it's too messy to do that. We already know what the answer is. Skip the discussion. Let's just go do it. Of course, I'm not talking about all groups in the public sphere. A medical group like, say, the Canadian Lung Association isn't meant to be a debating club. But for every organization that reasonably could have these kinds of internal discussions, and who doesn't, I think we lose something. Compromise. These are Avery Crawley and Spencer Colley of the East Preston Ratepayers Community Development Association. All property owners in East Preston are inherently members of their association. That means if these guys are going to make public statements on behalf of their membership, it must be more than just an echo chamber, this statement is supported by the group of people who support this statement type statement. They must make a statement that the group broadly can support. You don't get to choose your members, and that leads to the valuable skill of compromise and negotiation. Oversight. The financial statement, this financial statement, that one, is a financial statement from a real, honest-to-goodness membership organization. You get one when you go to their annual general meeting. You can see how they're doing. The publication and distribution of this is an example of members' oversight over their leaders, staff, and the organization as a whole. When you're at the top, even when you're working your butt off, if there's no regular check-in process with the membership, it's not always obvious, even to yourself, when you've gone in a direction your organization doesn't want, or begun taking volunteers for granted, or those sorts of things. It's valuable to have the kind of mandatory check-ins that membership's oversight of their leaders, such as at AGMs and those sorts of things, provide. Next, this is Joan Jessen from the NSGEU, who was speaking there on behalf of her members, and that's the next step, representation. The ability to say, I speak on behalf of X members or Y group. It's very important. It doesn't have to be a number. We could be talking about the ratepayers of East Preston, and you might not even know exactly how many are because somebody will show up the next time and you're not sure. Or it could be the cyclists of Bedford. It's important not only when you need to go out and talk to somebody who probably doesn't agree with you, as with Joan Jessen, but it's also great to be considered as a stakeholder, someone to be consulted when governments are making decisions and setting policies. That's tougher when you don't actually represent anyone. Influence and money. Membership organizations can be rewarded or penalized when they screw up by people who simply vote with their feet. They don't show up or they don't renew their membership. And this is a feedback tool available to all members, regardless of financial means. In non-membership organizations, whose only structural mandatory feedback is to make sure that the budget is funded, different financial sources can warp and twist the organization. they can end up somewhat democratic if you have many small donors, because that acts a little bit like memberships coming and going. But that can be trumped by a fewer large donors. So it's democratic of a sort, but that's the democracy of capitalism, the democracy of the free market, not the democracy of actual, democracy. And here's where I say I understand the exceptions. There are definitely non-membership organizations out there that are democratic, open, responsible, consultative. There are good guys even who don't have the structural ingredients that require it. You can have democratic togetherness in an organization without membership numbers, but you'd have to work pretty hard to have the converse. If you have a membership-based organization, it's almost difficult not to be democratic. So, I don't mean to say that organizations that just have subscribers and supporters are unethical or bad, only that they're missing out on some important benefits to themselves and to societies. In fact, many of them are doing some good things that I've already mentioned here on the other category anyways. However, I think it's a vital distinction to ask whether their structure is inherently democratic or whether it is because they have good, open, thoughtful leaders at the moment. The NAACP has been around since 1909. The next logo up there is going to be the Ecology Action Center, who already are into they're pushing into their 5th decade. In general, truly long-lived, effective public advocacy organizations have members, not just supporters. One of the best things about public participation is when you can say that you really feel like you're part of something, like those protests that Mark was talking about. Well, that's only ever partly true if the organization doesn't actually let you be a member. So I encourage organizations, particularly ones who have democratic goals, to become membership organizations. Start giving out membership cards and holding annual general meetings. I believe your organization will be healthier and stronger and will be doing its bit to improve the democratic skills of society. Thanks.